Breaking news. Uncle Shay Shannon Sharpe is officially out at ESPN after settling the $50 million lawsuit with that unsavory digital lady of the night. Guys, this one is one of those ones that it stings. You know what I mean? When you see a man that represents a component of what it is that you represent or what you look like fall from the grace because of the inability to control his eggplant. And it needs to be talked about because these things happen way more often than we would like to admit. The taking advantage of men of position and or power, running the jokes on them, running the play on them. But then when it comes from a law perspective, or at least trying to settle to get your name out of the news, the media, what have you, there are still going to be consequences to your actions, even if you are 110% innocent. What is it that we are talking about specifically? According to Spiritual World, let's read. ESPN has terminated its relationship with the NFL Hall of Famer and media analyst Shannon Sharpe less than 2 weeks after he settled the lawsuit filed by an ex-girlfriend accusing him of R. According to the sources cited by The Athletic, that is the sub-column to the New York Times, I believe. Sharpe, who has denied the allegations, has been absent from ESPN since the lawsuit was filed in late April of 2025. He had initially planned to return at the start of the NFL training camp. Remember, he had that video that he released shortly after the allegations came out where he talked about he's going to take a step back. Well, it looks like ESPN is not letting him back in. But ESPN has now cut ties with him. The network declined to comment on the decision. Yeah, they will not comment. This isn't a good year for Shay, and it's crazy because 2024 was one of the best years for Shay, starting off the beginning of the year with the Cat Williams interview, which put his podcast component of his career on the map. And a year and a half later, this man is suffering a fall from grace, unlike what we've seen before. Actually, I lie when I say that. We've seen this happening a lot of times before. Men losing points, positions, roles due to lack of eggplant control. A ninja pushing 60, letting a 20-year-old white woman trick him off a generational bag he was about to get from ESPN. Yeah, too late in the game to be having these type of mistakes happen to you. I agree with that comment. And still had to come off that money, shaking my head with a couple of different memes. All that for some mayonnaise on your elbow. All right, I think I've had enough of the casual racism from this side of the internet. Funny enough, I just did a piece of content on Joey Swole getting into trouble for saying colored people. Meanwhile, these are the same people that be down at Joey Swole's comments on this side of the internet talking about mayonnaise on elbow. What if Joey Swole said tar on elbow? He would have gotten canceled 20 times over again. Nevertheless, I'm getting off point and track here. Let me go through some of these news stories that I have as well. Looks like from the New York Post, they're saying, again, that it's over for him at ESPN after settling the lawsuit. Shannon Sharpe, 57, who joined First Take in fall of 2023, had to step away from the network back in April due to the wake of allegations. Is that all that they had up there? What a ridiculous. Anyway, I wanted to go over this video as well. It is a sportscaster, sports announcer talking through the implications, and I thought he brought up some really, really good points. So let's get after it.
The Shannon Sharpe situation, one of the biggest stories for anyone who pays attention to the NFL, and for good reason. Hall of Fame tight end and a very popular and successful media personality. As the case continues to unfold, and he was sued for sexual assault and other claims over the weekend, he's been very clear. He denies everything.
He has.
And his lawyer has come out and admitted that a $10 million offer, at least $10 million offer, was made to settle the case before it became public. Now we're getting to the point where it's having an impact on his current employment. Sharpe announced yesterday he'll be stepping aside from ESPN until the start of the NFL preseason. He currently, or at least was, appearing on First Take twice per week, Monday and Tuesday. That's over until the start of the NFL preseason, assuming ESPN even allows him to return, because Deadline.com reported that ESPN was going to sideline him, and Deadline was about to report that. Boom, Sharpe pivots, and he voluntarily steps aside. there's a PR game to all of this, and I'm not trying to say that Sharpe walked before they made him run, but you could come to that conclusion if ESPN's getting ready to bench him maybe beyond the start of the NFL preseason.
Just to put it in perspective, the $50 million case is more than what he's made in his entire NFL career. That's how ridiculous that it is. But the $50 million was based off of purely the amount of accolades or how widely known that his name is in the media, then coming back with a proposed $10 million settlement. Nobody knows what the inevitable settlement was, although I've seen rumors that it was up to $20 million that he handed over to that unsavory digital strumpet of a lady. But ESPN's response to the situation, I'm sure Shannon Sharpe has known about this for a long time, and it also makes sense why we never saw Stephen A. Smith just ardently defend Shannon Sharpe, because he knew at the point of allegation where this was heading, and I think ESPN would have gotten rid of him even if he took it to trial and got found not guilty. But even if he did take it to trial, let's say, and got found not guilty, well, then that's years that he would have been benched. So he still would have lost his job. Anyway, I'm just trying to highlight to you guys the importance of reducing your risk when it comes out here to dealing with women, because at the point of accusation, that's all that's needed to ruin your career. That's all that's needed in order to ruin your life. And at the point of accusation, because we're still in a #BelieveAllWomen environment, the consequences for even being accused may end everything that you worked for. Let's continue.
None of this is surprising, though. It took on a different vibe when it was disclosed that he offered $10 million. And I know that his lawyer, Lanny Davis, strenuously objects to my characterization that it's very hard to reconcile a loud insistence of innocence with, I offered at least $10 million to settle the claim. But when you hear that kind of number, I think it raises the stakes for ESPN and anybody else that's going to do business with Shannon Sharpe. And then you throw on top of it, Front Office Sports reported on Thursday that there was an incident at Fox when he was working for FS1. Now, the report was that there was an alleged choking of a female coworker. Sharpe's representative said there was no choking. It was playful interaction, but there was reportedly a settlement. And it's unclear when that happened, but this is what occurs when the cat gets out of the bag. Media starts looking for other things. I see there's already some other report. I haven't had a chance to take a look at it yet, but there's going to be more. And you just wonder what kind of impact it's going to have. And I don't know that $20 million instead of $10 million would have settled the case and kept all this stuff from coming to light. I really don't know. But the fact that $10 million was put on the table, that still continues to be significant. I saw someone talking about the $10 million offer in analytical, objective terms, that this is what you do when you try to put a settlement value on a case. She wants $50 million. You've got a certain percentage chance you're going to win or
it's
lose.
Mathematical.
You've got a certain amount of legal fees. So you justify as a business proposition
$10 million
offering
makes sense.
$10 million. I don't think that was it here.
I don't agree with this brother at all. I think that's exactly what happened. I think that it was consensual as shit. And Shannon and his lawyers got together in a room and said, okay, what can we do to make this go away? Because the math states that if I pay her $10 million now, ESPN doesn't know about this, I still get what was proposed at the time up to $100 million. And I think that was just from the podcast perspective. Who knows how many tens of millions of dollars would have came from ESPN. So to pay $10 million to make it all go away, because they did have some video of you, they did have some audio of you, and they did have text message. As loose as the evidence is, it's still reputation destruction that may have been worth $10 million at the time, in consideration how much that he could have earned at that time and in going into the future.
In a lot of cases, there are specific dollar figures that attach to the damages. If there's a car accident, the medical bills, the lost wages while you miss work, those are all clear, undeniable expenses that were incurred by the car accident.
Okay.
And that becomes part of the foundation for determining the settlement value of the case.
Sure.
For something like this, where there's no bill that was paid, no wages that were lost, no special damages. I know the complaint refers to $10 million in special damages, but it's just numbers that Tony Buzbee threw together. $10 million in general damages, $10 million in statutory fines, whatever those are, $10 million in special damages, $20 million in punitive damage. You can put any number you want. It's going to be what the jury ultimately gives you. So this isn't some careful mathematical exercise where, well, she wants $50 million and our percentage of prevailing at trial based upon the current trends for juries in Nevada, and it's going to cost whatever to defend the case. This is a pretty simple case. I don't know how much lawyers are charging now. I saw someone suggest it's going to be $8 million to defend them. Maybe I should say.
I feel like I need this guy's job. No, sir. What you're forgetting is the reputation destruction. What you forget is discovery. What you forget is that we now know that Uncle Shay Shay likes the soles of his feet looking towards the ceiling as he gets the inner sanctum of his behind eaten out. Right now we know that one of his best friends calls and watched him get sloppy toppy from the young OF assassin. All right, the carnivorous woman. Now we know these things. You cannot continue to work for something owned by Disney with these allegations on your back. It just doesn't work like that. In order to be a newscaster within mainstream media, right, an anchor, whatever it is that you want to call it, you need a degree of like this polished, squeaky image, whether it's true and or not. And that's because they are beholden to the ad sponsors, the advertisers. At the end of the day, these sponsors want to run ads on networks more when there's not any controversy in regards to the person that is hosting, facilitating these different shows. That's why it's so damn ridiculous that at his tender old age was still leading this life, practicing race play with a young lady that was waiting for the opportune time to sink her carnivorous talons into his wallet. You could literally see the play from a million miles away. Thinking that an NDA was going to stop her is insane to me. All right?
See you later and go back to practicing law. It's a pretty simple case. You got two main witnesses. It's not going to take a whole lot of time to prepare this case for trial. There's going to be a whole lot of pre-trial motion practice with long, lengthy documents and legal research. I'd say at the very most it's $500,000, and even then, that's putting the thumb on the scale a little bit, in my opinion. But if it's anywhere close to $8 million, you may never see me again. I'm going to do a little research over the weekend. Maybe it behooves me to go back to practicing law. And I don't mean to make light of the situation, but this is part of the overall analysis. I believe that disclosing the $10 million that was offered to the plaintiff before she filed the lawsuit was a tactical error. It was a PR blunder because the average person, I don't believe, can say, I understand why you'd offer that kind of money to fight a blackmailer, and I understand why you would tell the world that you did it. That's the bigger flaw. It's one thing to do it. It's another thing to say, hey, I offered $10 million to this person who I think is blackmailing me over a completely false claim. I just don't think that's how a reasonable person or most reasonable people would handle that type of a predicament.
Yeah, I mean, it's reasonable if you have nothing embarrassing, right, that the blackmailer is trying to come out with. And, part of this can also be, hey, listen, if you engage in this, then you damn sure better not bend the knee to terrorists. All right, because if you're innocent, 1,000% innocent, then you must be prepared to fight. But within that fight, we already know how the majority of men are treated, whether it be in media or just in general society today. Even when all of the evidence is there, you are guilty at the point of accusation. Even when the Buzbee gentleman came out with all of this information, right? She didn't hide the OF, right? She didn't private the IG account. Someone who is really this disturbed in regards to the actions of Shannon Sharpe would have gone into hiding. But no, there you go. Google her name. You go look up on the IG, and right up in the IG in the bio is a link to her OF. The millions of dollars that she has earned, not only in the settlement, but then also still providing the link, because at the time, this was like the most Googled story, is absolutely insane. I am here to say it is not outside the realm of plausibility that she has earned over $50 million when it's all said and done. Absolutely ridiculous way to not only throw away your own bag, but also give a bag to a damn Super Saiyan harlot. I do hope that both men and women that follow this content here today, that you can take a look at this and hope that we can do better. All right? For all the ladies, the MTRs that are down up in there, send the content over to your son, your brother, your uncle, your father, so that we can begin to have these conversations or continue to have these conversations about the negative implications of not having D control. And all my guys, this is what it is. Albeit because of the spotlight or the focus on Shannon Sharpe, the dollar amount seems absurd, but this happens at a smaller scale, at a smaller level so often. Shit, I even talk about within my own content where I was falsely accused of some shit. So albeit today is just a bad day for Shannon Sharpe, and I think that it's a bad day for the image of men everywhere. I hate the way that this case was inevitably handled, but I do hope that you all learn a life lesson from the way that Uncle Shay Shay conducted himself. There's some consequences to being a nasty ass unk at the end of it. Guys, drop me your question, comments, as well as concerns down in the comment box down below. Let me know what you guys think about his inevitable firing from ESPN and dropping that incredible, generous bag. Until next time, peace.
She belongs to the street.
Girl, don't hold my hand. You a mattress actress on the OnlyFans. Get your money, girl, but damn, how is that your only plan? What you gonna do when you get too old to strip and dance? Get up out your echo chamber screaming period and yes. You a low down dirty woman if you try to get knocked up by a high value man.